Are you a farmer or butcher ready to master direct-to-consumer marketing and meat success? Then you're in the right place. I'm Jared Hawken, the founder of Chop Local. Each episode of this podcast features interviews with farmers and butchers who have built successful direct-to-consumer meat businesses, and they're going to share their secrets for success with you. From actionable tips to inspiring stories, this podcast has ingredients you will need to succeed in the meat business. After the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and follow us on social. And check out the rest of our educational resources at choplocaluniversity.com. Now, let's turn it over to my business partner, Katie, to get started.
Before we get into this next episode, I wanted to let you know about one of our other resources that we offer. If you are in a hurry to see meat marketing results fast, then the Meat Commerce Essentials course is perfect for you. It covers everything that you need to know to sell meat online successfully, and it's presented in short video snippets to get you the info that you need to put into action as quickly as possible. For a limited time, we're offering our podcast listeners $100 off the course using coupon code POD100. That's POD100. Just visit choplocaluniversity.com to find the course and be sure to enter POD100 at checkout. All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of the Meat Success Podcast. I'm Katie Olthoff, the co-founder of Chop Local and Chop Local University, and I'm here with one of our vendors, Margaret Schwartz from Schwartz Meat Company. And I'm going to let Margaret tell everyone about her, but kind of the thing that makes her really unique is that Schwartz Meat Company sells lamb. You know, we work with a lot of beef vendors, a lot of pork vendors, and a handful of lamb vendors, but it is a little bit different than selling beef or pork. So thank you, Margaret, so much for being here.
Absolutely, we're happy.
Yeah, can you start out and tell us just kind of how Schwartz Meat Company came about and, a little bit of background about the farm?
So our family, my husband's family, has raised sheep for 6 generations. So we've continued that legacy. That was something that we started when we were in college. Before we were ever married, we had our first flock of sheep together. So carrying that legacy through from his grandparents that have passed that down has been really important to us. And we started selling meat right before COVID. I worked at Big Ass Fans for 7 years, and people used to ask, like, hey, can I get a leg of lamb from your farm for Easter? Or, hey, do you have any of this? And people would just kind of buy out of our freezer randomly. And in 2020, right before COVID hit, I was like, let's do this. Let's kill a couple extra lambs and process those and just see what happens. So we did that, and the first day that we told everybody, like, hey, we've got lamb, we sold out. And I was like, well, there's your sign. This is what we're going to do. And that hit in January, right before COVID hit. So then COVID hit, and that was awesome for the meat business as well. So Zach and I, we have about 200 to 300 ewes running all the time. They run a group of feeder lambs, usually about 100 feeder lambs. We started doing that this year. And then we have a club lamb program as well. So the meat business kind of came from, what do we do with the extra club lambs when those don't sell to the 4-H kids? Instead of being at the volatility of the markets, we were able to just put them in the freezer and make a little bit extra cash that way.
And you guys are located in kind of the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains in Kentucky, is that right?
Yes, we're in eastern Kentucky. We're in Flemingsburg, Kentucky.
Yeah, right over the border from Ohio. And I may have driven through the area, but it was 18 years ago. Okay, so the pictures that I've seen, it looks like kind of rolling hills, lots of grass. I mean, great place to raise sheep, right?
Yes, it's a great place to raise sheep. There's lots of rolling hills. We've got a little creek that runs through the farm that my kids love to play in. And if you look far out from the farm, you can see little mountaintops and stuff. So that's really cool and different. I know I grew up about an hour away, and it's even different from there. Like, you couldn't see mountains in Paris, but you can see them here, and that's kind of cool.
That is really cool, especially for me coming from very flat Iowa. Like, anytime I get to see anything that's not flat, I'm like, oh, look at that. So, selling lamb, you said, people were asking you initially about maybe a leg of lamb for Easter. Are those still the cuts? Is it the holiday cuts that sell really well? Or what cuts are you seeing demand for, and kind of how do you deal with the rest of the lamb that's maybe not in demand?
So most of the lamb gets eaten pretty well. I would say like the hardest things to move have been shoulders, like the bigger chunks. And I think that's true across all of the species that you can purchase from. is it's hard to move with the roast. So like our shoulder, I've learned that we don't process as many shoulders. We make that into stew meat, and stew meat moves really well, which I was shocked because I had never cooked with it before. People started asking for it. So
What do people use it for?
they make curries. You put it on kebabs, make it on a, make kebabs and put those on salads and stuff. So it's really versatile. And I think that's why people like it is, it can become stew, or it can become a kebab, or maybe it's curry, or maybe it becomes part of a pot pie. It's just further broken down. It's a convenience item.
That makes sense. I think one of the things that I struggle with when I think about how I would cook lamb is that I come from a very traditional meat and potatoes Midwestern cooking background. You know what I mean? And so like I've never had or made curry. Like that would not even occur to me as being something that like would go into my meal rotation. So
And that's one of the fun things about lamb is experimenting and finding new recipes. My husband also grew up and was very meat and potatoes, beans kind of family, and didn't eat a lot of vegetables or venture out much. And I grew up just having like leg of lamb for Easter and the holidays. So it's not something we grew up eating a lot of. We do eat it now, and my kids think that all meat is lamb, which is really fun. But they're very adventurous eaters.
that's awesome. So you said the stew meat, but you also do like lamb brats and gyro meat and things like that. Is that coming from those cuts that maybe don't sell as well?
Yes, so primarily I keep like our prime cuts, so you get your lollipops and your loin chops or your rack of lamb. And then we do legs. I do boneless. It was what most of my customers like. And then shoulders, depending on inventory, when I take a group of lambs, I decide, do I need all the shoulders, or should I cut those into stew meat or make more brats and all the trimmings and stuff. So, and then I keep all of our lamb shanks, because if I'm not eating them, the restaurants really like to buy those up, which is fun. It's an easy, hey, can you give me 30 shanks? And I can say, yes, I've been collecting these for you. And they take them and they're so happy.
So is it typically restaurants, like repeat restaurants that will repeat and buy from you, multiple times?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Once you start a restaurant relationship, usually they come back to you. I like to do the smaller restaurants that are locally owned. They're fun to work with and come up with new ideas. I've got a little bakery downtown that is going to be doing a wedding in November. So I've been saving all of my legs up for her to do a wedding. And she's so excited, but she's a little nervous because it's a lot of lamb and she doesn't want to mess it. I'm like, this is how we're going to cook it. This is how you can feed a group, because I'm experienced with doing that through our farm to forks and stuff. So they appreciate that extra knowledge of knowing how to prepare it and hold it for a large group of people.
Yeah. For our listeners, I did a podcast interview with a Berkshire pork producer in California, and we talk a lot about restaurant sales. And he's saying some of the same things that you said about like working with those restaurants to help give them ideas and maybe even guidance on how to cook it and things like that, because they may not be used to working with it, especially lamb.
Yes, I love that I can text them and say, hey, I've got an excess of ground lamb right now, or I have an excess of shanks. Do you guys want to plan a meal for that? And that's one of the fun things about working with the smaller restaurants. Instead of saying like, they're going to take all of my lamb chops, which I'm not open to. I have to share those with everybody. I can say, hey, I have an extra of this. Would you like to plan for that? Is that something you're interested in?
Do you give them a discount?
I do. I give them a wholesale discount. Usually I shave a dollar or two off per pound, depending on what it is.
But it sounds like if you are, approaching them when you've got excess and it's sitting in the freezer anyway, your choice is either let it sit in the freezer until...
Or I eat it. That's a lot of shanks to eat, yes.
So, yeah. Flavor of lamb, what do you want people to know?
Yes, so I always tell people that the flavor of lamb is most similar to like your filet of beef. It's going to be like buttery and soft and flavorful. That tender bite is what a lamb chop tastes like, or a lollipop tastes like, but maybe a little bit more rich to it. I also tell people that lamb is very nutrient dense. It has 23 grams of protein, which is a little bit more than beef, a little bit more than salmon. So it's high protein, and then it's nutrient dense. It also has all the amino acids, all 9 amino acids. It also has all of the omega-3s in it as well. So it's a very nutrient dense. You can get everything from lamb, whereas other things you'd have to have some fish in your diet. So it's all coming from one spot.
So my mom was diagnosed with Parkinson's last year, and Randomly at a conference, the meat conference this winter, this lamb producer came up to me and told me how everybody needs to be eating lamb and that they recommend it as a Parkinson's diet because it's easier to digest, maybe. Does that make sense? But filet is her favorite cut of beef. And so when you said that, I was like, oh, I do need to order some lamb for my mom to try and see.
Yeah, lamb chops, lollipops. She'll like it.
Okay, so that was my next question is what's the difference between a lollipop and a chop?
Okay, so a loin chop comes from the loin. A lollipop comes from the rack of lamb. So a lollipop, when you have a rack, it has the long bone off of it. It's just sliced and it's a chop off of that. So it's a lollipop.
Okay. So it's not like a lollipop chop is not like a French cut pork chop.
I think it might be. It's the same thing but lamb. So I think the lollipops are a little bit softer, more tender than the loin chop is. Both very flavorful, but the lollipop takes the cake.
Okay, so that's what I should give mom as a treat to get her, right? Like,
yeah, if you want a treat, that's it. Yes.
Okay, interesting. Very interesting. And this is, again, just for me, and you probably have it in the description. How do you cook them? Like medium?
Yes. Lamb should be a medium rare, medium. I usually aim for like 130.
Okay, so you mentioned your farm to fork, and this is one of the things I definitely wanted to talk about because I don't think we've talked about this on the podcast yet, is doing farm dinners, or your events are on the farm, correct?
They're actually on my friend's farm, our partner farm.
Okay, so tell us all about these farm to fork dinners. How long have you been doing it? All of that jazz.
So my friend Holly and I at Hatmaker Homestead, they raise chicken and then they also do turkeys and produce. So we partner with them on a CSA and they kind of started their business at the same time as us. So it's really fun to be able to bounce ideas back and forth and say, hey, I'm having an issue with this, or what do you think about this? And through that, we decided we were going to auction off a farm to fork dinner for like a more intimate crowd, say like 8 to 10 people. So we auctioned that off to benefit our local farmers market. And we did our first farm to fork. It was small. It was under the trees. We had string lights in it. And we cooked in the kitchen and we made a wonderful meal. And it went over really well. And at the end, we were like, I really like that. That made my creative heart happy. If I feed people, that makes my heart happy. So we were like, we're going to do this. We really liked it. So we went larger scale and we've been doing groups of 20 is what we aim for, 20 to 25 people on the farm. And Holly and I get together and we make a menu and say, like, this time we're going to kind of go this theme. Like, we start with our proteins and say we're going to do a spatchcock chicken and we're going to do a leg of lamb. And then the sides kind of trickle out from there to make sure it all blends and is cohesive together. But it's so fun because we get to meet our CSA customers who we regularly deliver to each week. A lot of them attend, and then other community members come and get to experience life on the farm and food from our kitchens, which is so fun. And we get to create community around local food, which is great.
What year did you first do this, and how often are you doing it now?
I think we've been doing them for 3 years now. We're up to, I think, Farm to Fork 10 or 11 is coming up.
Wow. Okay, so you're doing it more than once a year.
Yes, we're trying, we kind of look at the schedule at the beginning of the year. Last year I had a baby, so we kind of nixed a couple out, and then we started fresh again this year. So we're aiming to get, 3 to 5 each year, depending on how available everybody is and what life looks like.
So when you're shooting for 20, you have trouble selling it out?
It just ebbs and flows. Sometimes it depends on what the date falls with. Is it football season? What's happening that weekend? Usually we don't know when we've planned them what is going to be happening that weekend. But yeah, usually there's 20 people there.
I love that the first one that you did was like a benefit for a local organization, basically auctioning it off, because I have seen, we're involved in the county fair and the different things like that. And I think that is a great, or our school booster club fundraiser, things like that, I think is a great way for you to get your name out there and show a little goodwill. And our family would typically go and buy something at the fundraiser. So why not make the donation and be that way instead? I love that. So.
Yes, it was really fun. Holly and I are both involved on our farmers market board, and we have been for a while, maybe before COVID. So the farmers market was dwindling down. We have a year-round farmers market, which is really cool. And it has an indoor store to it that's open 6 days a week. So we saw that the market was dwindling. People were not being overly welcoming into the market when we wanted to join. Even when I asked to join, they were like, well, we already have a lamb vendor. You can't join. And I was like, well, that's wrong. So I joined the board, and I'm a member. But by joining the board, we kind of overturned the board and made it a very young vendor-led board instead of a community-led board, which puts more tie into the people that are participating. So as a vendor, we want the market to do well. So you kind of have some drive on why would I spend my time doing this. So we've been able to pour back into our market and bring it back to life and create community around our farmers market, which led to those initial farm to forks.
Yeah, that is so cool. So the farm to fork dinners are, how much are you charging? Is it enough that it is really a moneymaker, or is it more of a marketing opportunity for people to try your meat?
I think it's making money. We charge $75 a plate, which is plenty. And then we have a child's plate too. So if someone wants to bring their kids along, we do $25 per kid to eat.
Yeah, and you're not hiring an outside caterer. You guys are doing it yourselves. So
No, we're doing all the cooking. It's Zach, my husband, and I do it, and then Holly and her husband, and then we have family that comes and helps with the kids and does dishes and helps in the kitchen as we need it. But yeah, it's all our recipes and our cooking.
I could never, honestly, that's not my skill set. I could never host.
And you have to appreciate that. Holly and I wouldn't be able to do this if we couldn't trust each other to say, like, you've got that. I'm not going to worry about it. And, Zach and I handle all of the proteins. We've taken that. So the grill is Zach. I give him a time and we get it all made, and he makes sure that he cooks it to the right temperature. So we kind of split and trust each other.
Years before Chop Local, when I was a stay-at-home mom, I have a neighboring farm that's about 4 miles down the road from me, and it's a produce farm that does farmers produce and perennials and annuals, the flowers. And I had a little like junk business in there, like where I sold, like I painted for old furniture and I sold people hog panels to hang their bath towels on, like things like that. So, and Nicole and I had very complementary skill sets. I'm just thinking as you're talking through this, like I could have decorated and hung the string lights and made the little flower arrangements for the table and everything, and Nicole would have had to cook. and we could have done it at her place because it's beautiful. So
as a team, we've learned, like, everyone says yes chef, and everyone is kind of like my sous chefs. So I'm the one that has the ideas, and we're like, this is how we do it, this is what it should look like, and we all make one sample plate, and then we make the 19 other plates so that it all looks the same.
And like you said earlier, it makes your heart happy to feed people. I'm thinking back to when I was at your stage of life with 3 young kids. Now mine are 17, 14, and 8, so not quite the same as yours, but that was that stage of life for me. And I remember it was so fulfilling to do something creative that people enjoyed, and get to work with one of my friends like that. So lots of benefits to doing those farm to fork dinners, and a great way to get people to try the meat, right?
Right, it is. It's a good way, and it's always fun to see somebody like new that comes and says, I've never had lamb before, and you get to be there to experience their first bite and make sure that it was delicious and exactly what it was supposed to be. So it's always really fun to hear their feedback and be like, well, I didn't think that's not exactly what we expected, but it was fantastic.
Okay, so if the people, people can't be there in person and try it in person with you, I know that you also do a lot with recipes and meal ideas on your social media and your marketing, that type of thing. Tell us a little bit more about that and how that's played a role in what you're doing.
Sure. So when we first started selling lamb, it was a hard conversation. It was hard to get people to come to your booth at the farmer's market because I don't know how to cook that. Why would I stop there? So I started sharing recipes of how do I prepare it in my home. And we started doing that. The first one I was doing a farmer's market at a wedding venue each Friday, and it had a lot of really young people that were newlyweds that were there, and they would stop by the booth and be like, well, I don't really know how to cook that. And I'd say, here's the recipe. This is what we're going to cook this week. And they would take that home, and they would wow their husbands, and then we'd come back next week and say, Margaret, what are we cooking? That was fantastic. I was impressed. He was impressed. And so it was kind of like a little newlywed game of, let's share a recipe with the newlyweds, get them cooking in the kitchen and eating lamb, which I loved. So that kind of started there, and I started making recipe cards that we could share. I would text As I make a sale, I'd say, do you want me to text you a recipe? Do you need a recipe for those lamb chops? I want them to come out perfect. And people would say yes. So I would text them the recipe, and I'd have the little recipe card on my phone. And I still have that very same album on my phone saved for all of my lamb recipe cards, so I can easily say, like, let me just text it to you. It's really easy.
That's so smart and so organized to have them just at your fingertips so you can do that really quickly.
Right. It's so easy. And I just make a recipe card on Canva. It's so simple. And I keep them on our website too. I try and update those under our recipe tabs as we find new ones.
I was just looking, I just pulled up your Chop Local store and looking, like, when I click on Schwartz Meat Company's ground lamb, that product description has the recipe for red wine lamb burgers.
And they're fantastic.
Yeah, I think that is so smart to just have it right there so that if people are like, oh, okay, like, I have wanted to try lamb, but I'm not really sure what to do with it, like, there it is. You've given them the idea. You've made it so much easier for them. And this is a tried and true recipe that you've tested, right?
Yeah, these are all things that my kids will eat too, which is great. I mean, the lamb bowls that you'll see on there are one of our favorite things. They get so excited, and it's just stew meat with lemon and oregano on it. It's so easy. And then they get to build their own salad with all kinds of fun things in it.
Yeah, so the other thing that really stands out when I've looked at your marketing before is your photography, your farm photography and your food photography, which we recently launched a food and farm photography guide. Sierra is a very talented photographer on our team too, and so she put together some tips and inspiration, but we've always said internally, and we use some of your photos in our marketing because we love them so much and they're so beautiful. So without being able to demonstrate for listeners, what are kind of some of your tips for that photography to make it so enticing?
So for photography, I've always, as you can see with the recipes and the photography, I have a creative side of the brain that's very big, and it likes to be nurtured. So taking pictures, I've always said you can always make a good picture look a little bit better, but you can't make a bad picture much better. So I always make sure there's good natural light. So take a picture near a window, or make sure that the sun isn't bleaching out what you're taking a picture of. Look for that golden hour is magical on the farm. It's always good. Just get out there right at golden hour and take pictures of your stock or your farm. It always looks so much better. So always making sure you have a natural light source. If you don't have a lot of natural light, a lot of those pictures are from the beginning when we lived in our old house, and we had porches all the way around the house, so there was no natural light. It was like living in a cave. So a ring light makes a huge difference when you're taking pictures. Huge.
That's really smart too, because a lot of times, like, if I wanted to take a picture of a meal that I've cooked, like to use on social or something, most of the time I'm making that meal for supper.
In the dark.
Yes, like in the dark. And I'm always like, well, now my photos look so, like you said, kind of washed out. You can see that it's the artificial light, there's shadows, there's, so.
Yeah, a lot of mine I took under fluorescent lights.
That's really smart.
It lives in my pantry, so I can just whip it out right as dinner's ready, and we can take a picture, and everybody waits while Mom gets the pretty picture in, and then I make everyone's plates and we go on. But yes, light is your number one. Make sure you've got it. Shoot by a window. Use a ring light. Get that good light so that everything's well lit and you can see the color of your meats.
Yep. Are you shooting with your iPhone, or do you have
Usually it's my iPhone. I don't have time to get the big camera out and then download the pictures onto my computer. It's all right here.
I'm totally with you. So I'm looking at your rack of lamb photo that I'm pretty sure is actually your photo. It's not like a stock photo, but it looks like a stock photo. Do you use like portrait mode to kind of get that blurry background, or do you recommend that?
So when I take pictures, I either use portrait mode. I usually take a lot of pictures. I just start snapping because usually there's kids that are pulling at my shirt like, give me my food, I'm ready to eat. So I take them high up. I take one that's directly down on the meat. I'll take one at a 3/4. Usually, if it's a plate, you're looking at what is your flat lay. Is it going to be on top of a cutting board? Can you add some herbs? Can you spill a little cracked pepper? Make it a little less perfect sometimes. You just want to look at that. And one of the tricks, it's a crazy trick, but when I was trying to figure out, like, how do you make the flat lays look really good? How do I make it look like theirs? if you take your picture on your phone and turn it upside down and look at it, usually you can spot and say like, that's not right. And then you can turn it back over and fix something, and you see it so much easier. It's a really crazy trick. But if you start taking your flat lace, turn it upside down and look at it.
I had a little home renovation DIY blog, and I swear that as soon as I took a picture of a room, I would be like, oh, there's a bright blue Lego under the couch or whatever. And I wouldn't see it in real life, but as soon as I took the picture. But turning your phone upside down, I also once saw a food photography tip that said to actually turn it upside down and take the picture that way will change the angle a little bit and make for a really neat angle. So you should try that and see what you think too.
I should try that too.
Great tips here with having some herbs, or you mentioned
cutting boards. I collect. I didn't used to. I have a special drawer in the house that has all kinds of different plates in it that are mismatched. So we have our normal everyday plates, but then I have Margaret's plates that I pull something out different so that I can, so not all of my pictures are on a white plate. I've got black plates and wooden plates. Blue is really good for meat. If you add something blue in your picture, it helps pop that red more so you can see a good coloring. It's like a more attractive to the eye. And then just making sure that your plate has variation. So if you're going to make a whole plate, it's not just red. It's red and yellows and greens, and that everything looks pretty because you eat with your eyes. So if something looks good, people are more likely to say like, I think I need to try that.
Yeah. And I always say that I want customers to come to your online store or to come to your marketing and look at it and get hungry. You know what I mean? I want it to be so mouthwatering that you think to yourself, I wish that I had that so that I could make that for lunch in an hour or for dinner tonight. And that's what your photos do. I also love, I'm looking at this one. It's a picture of lamb shanks that I'm thinking this is curry. I don't even know. But it's in a blue floral kind of bowl. And one thing, my regular dinner plates are bright white. And so if I smear any sauce where I don't want it or anything like that, then I have to go and wipe it off. But the patterned plates, this one is not overwhelming, but it does hide if there's any, anything like that. So you said you've collected things, but cutting boards with your logo on it is a great tip for people too, because then you take a really beautiful photo and you don't necessarily have to put your logo on it. It's branded with your information, and that's something that we've done a lot too. So
I have seen that in a lot of pictures.
So what about out on the farm? You were talking about using the herbs and the blue contrasting with the red. I love the green and blue bright farm photos. You have beautiful grass. Makes it easy to take pictures of lambs out on beautiful grass, I feel like, or sheep out on beautiful grass. The hogs are different. And you do raise hogs too, right?
Yes, we have pigs too. They are dirty and dusty, but they're so fun. I love having pigs.
Give us some photography tips for pigs, because I will tell you that most of the pig pictures that I see from farmers are wide shot from the top, lots of dirt with the pig that's blending in with the dirt. You know what I mean?
That's it. You gotta get in there and get dirty. Get down low and take your pictures. My pictures are not from up here. They're down on the lamb's level or on the hog's level. So sometimes I put my knee down in the dirt, and that's okay. I've got pictures with the hogs all around me looking at me because they're so interested and nosy in what you're doing with your life. So getting down on their level and doing that is really easy. It's a great way to get a shot that is like being right there in the pig pen, because I am.
So I don't know what your hog setup looks like. Are they ever out on green grass, or do you ever take them out on grass for photos, on purpose?
Oh no. They go out to green grass and they quickly make it not green grass.
Exactly. Okay. So, because I was going to say, I know I've seen photos and or video from you where there are pigs on green grass.
That would have been fresh when we got out there.
Exactly. Take it that day when you're out there. And like you said, if you get down low and get in front of their faces, you can get that grass and you can get that sky, and you can really, really makes for a pretty picture there. So
it makes it for something that's going to catch your eye, to have the blue and have the sky and colors.
Yeah. And we know, I always tell people this. We work with a lot of cattle producers who have grain finished cattle that are in a small feed yard too, and just a couple dozen head or whatever it might be. And we know that that's literally a pig pen too, where it gets really dirty and dusty. People want to believe that our animals are out on green grass all the time. We know as farmers that that's not realistic at all, but those photos are just so powerful. They just make people feel nostalgic, and they really feel good about what they're buying, I think, when they see that.
Right. Everything's living their best life. As a producer, we always think like they have one bad day and they don't even know it. So we take the one bus ride and it's over.
And we know that their best life does include, dirt lots sometimes, but still, if we can show the green grass, I think that always makes a big impact on the consumers too.
Oh, I think so. And just, the pigs, even if you're showing the dirt that they live in because they like that, we get the water hose out and we spray them, and the kids spray them while Zach's feeding filling the feeders up. So we spend time in those lots with the pigs, and they're used to us. So they come naturally to see, what are we doing? Oh, the feed man is here and the water lady is here and the kids are here and they're going to tickle us or try and ride us. And it's all fun.
All right. So perfect segue into the kids. You also take a lot of pictures of your kids with the animals too, which
I do. They're very cute.
They are cute. They're adorable. And when you combine them with the animals, I think that psychological, emotional reaction that consumers have to like seeing real people interacting with these animals, especially when they're the cute kids, is powerful. But your kids, the youngest is a baby, a year-ish.
She's going to be 2 in October already.
2 in October. Oh my gosh. And then what about the other 2? How old are they?
So I have Bryce is 9. He's in 4th grade this year. And I have Nora, who is 6 and in 2nd grade this year. And then Parker is going to be 2 in October.
So talk to us about raising the kids on the farm. And I know you are truthfully more hands-on, I think, with the lambs, with the sheep and the hogs than I was when my kids were little with our farm animals. So how do you manage that and everything else that you have going on?
Yeah. Take the kids with you. Don't stay stuck in the house. Just go. Pack them up, pack the bag of snacks, and go see what Dad's doing. And they quickly learn to be part of the effort. This last 2 years, so Parker was born almost 2 years ago, the big kids have taken over all of my jobs. And it kind of breaks my heart because I'm not as needed as I used to be.
Yeah, but that's also such a great feeling.
It's so cool, but also I'm like, that was my job. And they're like pushing me out of the way, like, no, Mom, we got this. Just stay back over there. But just take them with you. I will always say that our best days and those core memories that we're making are outside together. When it's all 5 of us, if we're building fence, everybody goes. We get on the Ranger. I can drive the Ranger and hold the baby, or the kids can drive the Ranger now. They're getting so big and helpful that they can pull temporary fence posts. They can put the string on the clip. Give everybody a job and let them help. Even Parker is learning to carry buckets and scoop feed, and she loves to help Bryce make the show feed for the show lambs. That's part of her thing. So everybody finds a job and they learn to love it. And even like Bryce, when he was our only, we kind of taught him to be very feral, like independent. He can go outside and do his own thing on the farm. So now that we have show lambs and we're trying to rein him back in, it's so hard for him to say like, but Mom, this is my time. I'm supposed to be feral right now. I'm allowed to do whatever I want. I'm like, well, we have to walk the lambs. Yeah, just take them out to the barn. Even if you're just standing there holding a water hose, it's still part of the experience together until Mom can become more helpful again.
When Parker was littler, did you wear her like in a wrap on your chest a lot, like that type of thing?
So we had the stroller always. Her best naps were always in the barn because it's noisy and you just kind of shut down. So we bundle up. I love winter in the barn because you throw them in the coveralls and everybody's happy and she's toasty and she takes a nap. And I get a little alone time in the barn. But yeah, we wear her, we put her in the stroller and she'd take a nap, and we could work lambs all winter long because we lamb about 6 months out of the year. So from October until well into spring, we're lambing. So there's always babies to work. We're tagging, we're doing tails and shots and vaccinations, and everybody gets a job and is part of the effort together.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, Margaret, super mom, super cook, super photographer. I'm sure it's not as easy as you make it sound, but
No, no. I'm definitely the type B, like grab the whole box of Cheez-Its to go instead of like everybody has a package of anything. But yes, it's fun. Just take them, take the snacks. Everybody will survive if you take them to the barn.
and get that fresh air and that experience with the animals and that family time together, like you said. Yeah, fantastic. So. Well, this has been a great conversation. I feel like we covered a lot in our conversation today, but it's been really, really interesting. And we've loved working with you. Like I said, we look to your photos and get inspiration and things like that. So if people want to learn more about Schwartz Meat Company or talk to Margaret about, hosting an event on the farm or anything like that, it's Schwartz Meat Co.
SchwartzMeatCompany.com or on Instagram, Schwartz Meat Company.
And then, of course, you can check out our Chop Local store and see the beautiful photos that I mentioned too, and the recipes and all of that kind of thing.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Meat Success. We hope this episode gave you fresh insights and inspiration to beef up your meat marketing. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, follow us on social, and share with your fellow farmers and butchers. Have questions or ideas for future podcasts? Reach out to choplocaluniversity.com. Until next time, remember, there's more than one recipe for meat success.